Let's talk about how you find the sides of the unknown sides of a triangle. We will always have right triangles. There's your hypotenuse. These will always be vectors, and so we'll actually be representing these with arrows. Now the hypotenuse represents what we call the component, what we call the resultant vector. And the sides, let's give them a different color, represent what are called the components. So I typically represent those with dashed arrows. Okay, so, and again, they are arrows, but you can draw them as lines, but in order to solve the problem. But when you are actually doing this, like on a test, you need to draw them as arrows. So here's our angle. Well, try that one again. This is the, let's go to blue. That's a nice color. So this is the opposite side. There's the adjacent side. And there's the hypotenuse. So given this orientation, here's your right angle. To find the opposite side, you need to use sine. So since the sine of the angle equals opposite over hypotenuse, then if I multiply both sides by the hypotenuse, then what I end up with, because you notice that that's going to cancel with that, what I end up with is, let me get this back to blue, is that the opposite side equals the hypotenuse times the sine of the angle. So let's just say that you have a triangle that has a hypotenuse of, say, I don't know, 10. And that the angle is 30 degrees. So what I want to find, I want to find the side, the x side and the y side. Well, again, these are called, the x and the y are called component vectors. Component vectors. The hypotenuse is called the resultant. So, to find the value of y, that would be the opposite side, right? Y is the opposite side. So, y would equal the hypotenuse of 10 times the sine of 30 degrees. Be sure you're in degree mode. And that would come out to be 5. Now to find the other side, if you wanted to find the adjacent side, x, what would you use? Think about it. Well, it's adjacent, so I would use cosine. So the cosine of the angle equals adjacent divided by hypotenuse. So when you solve for the adjacent side, doing the same thing we did last time, I need to multiply both sides by the hypotenuse in order to solve for the adjacent side. So we have h in the denominator and h in the numerator. That cancels. And so we solve for the adjacent. And that would come out to be the hypotenuse times the cosine of the angle. And in this case, that equals 10 times the cosine of 30 degrees, which I think I know the answer, but I got to just double check on my calculator. So that is 8.66. So we'll call it 8.7. 8.7. All right.